respective schools, it wouldn't be going that well, would it?
No, but there again, it's a fabulous product.
Yeah.
But it's not had the growth in recent months that one would expect.
And a lot of my people will be interested, a lot of my listeners will be interested, a lot of my listeners, a lot of people will be interested in this BT story, possible overcharging. What's this about, David?
Well, it's a possibility that in 2017, the telecoms watchdog Ofcom found that BT had been overcharged 2.3 million landline customers. Many of them are elderly people as well, and not perhaps financially as savvy. As a result of the review, the firm reduced the price of its landlines by £7 a month to sort of try and placate the loyal customers. A watchdog committee, they're not having this, and they've appointed Mishcon and Derrere and filed a claim of Competition Appeals Tribunal worth £600 million. That means that it could be as much as £500 for each of the 2.3 million customers who believe they have been
his father, I understand, committed suicide when he was a young man, and because of his physical stature, sadly, he was regularly bullied at school. Gennaro.
Well, indeed, yeah. Who knows what things in our upbringing, in our lives, sort of ultimately influence our behaviour, and we already know that once you get into that kind of creative world, the pressures you're under to continue succeeding as well. How does that sort of ultimately influence your behaviour as well? It's hard to say, but clearly, when he had that background, it was always going to find some expression in how he sort of lived his life, I dare say.
And yet his songs are so upbeat, and they're all about love. I mean, this is it was such a. I mean, losing your dad at 9, you're then bullied, but the songs are all about finding love and be my baby and everything else, Gennaro.
Well, clearly there was a yearning deep inside, I suppose, to find that side, and maybe working with other talent that brought that more positive side, that more creative side out. But it was always there, lurking in the background. It was always sort of there as a dark force, which ultimately found that very sad and tragic expression at the end.
Lastly, were you asked what would be the track that you think should accompany him, the news of his passing, what bit of work do you think was his absolute peak?
Gosh, well, I think the work with the Righteous Brothers, You've Lost That Love and Feelings, really, because actually it's the most played song of the 20th century in the US.
Is that right? Oh, you've nailed it then. Yeah, you've nailed it, absolutely. Gennaro, thank you. Gennaro Castaldo is through the BPI, British Phonographic Institute. We come back to our conversation about travel. Linda, I'm going to be hearing from you. Also, coming up later in the show, the government plans new laws to protect statues in England. Yes, statues such as... Yeah, there it goes, into the briny slave trader Edward Colston back in the summer of last year in Bristol. More on that later in the show. 7:45, LBC News headlines. Simon Conway.
The government says the over 70s and those listed as clinically extremely vulnerable will begin to be offered COVID vaccines this week. Another 10 mass vaccination centres are due to open across England, adding to the 7 already operating. And all travel corridors to the UK have now been suspended, meaning a blanket